you're doing any of these 5 mistakes, then I guarantee that your May is far from optimal. In today's video, I'll be teaching you what these mistakes are and how you can fix them. The first being cancelling into heavy slash dolphin way too often during your offense. This is all too common for players on floor 9 and 10 because players at that floor won't actually punish you for going for it, but once you reach the celestial floor you'll realize, oh shit, people can actually react to me doing this. We need to remember that heavy slash dolphin takes 25 frames to start up. You know what other moves are around 25 frames startup? Kai's Fodre Arc, Giovanna's Heavy Spiral Arrow, Leo's Cross Up. These are all moves that are fairly reactable, and I think we can all agree on that. Whenever I fight other Mei players, one of the first things I'm looking for is, do they like to use heavy slash dolphin? And if the answer is yes, then I'll almost always be able to 6-speed them consistently throughout the match. In the last video I released on my tournament run against just a bunch of Mei players, I was able to 6-speed them almost every single time and rarely ever actually blocked this heavy slash dolphin. If the opponent isn't actively 6-P'ing you, then by all means go ahead and use it, because every time they block it you get an overhead kiss or a low mix-up, and it's very powerful. But if the opponent is consistently 6-P'ing you every time you use it, then you need to be comfortable not using heavy slash dolphin at all, only cancelling into S dolphin or not cancelling into anything at all. I recommend saving this for a tense moment in a match when your opponent's reactions might actually fail them, or they'll just try and do something kinda stupid. If you're a player who currently has this habit, I recommend working on it as soon as possible to prevent plateaus. This actually brings me on to my second point, which is poor implementation of Dolphin RPS. I do have a video on this, so I'll link it in the top right hand corner, but it's basically just fast scramble situation after somebody blocks your fast dolphin. The first way I see people mess this up is actually by not using it at all. Basically I mean they're just sitting there blocking and accepting their fate. But keep in mind, you have so many options to fight back after somebody blocks your dolphin, but you always should be trying something instead of just blocking. I mean, you can backdash, you can 6P, you can 2S, you can jump, you can do another dolphin. There's a lot of options, but ultimately it comes down to what your opponent is trying to do. You need to be hyper aware of what's on the opponent's mind. If they just want to press a far slash, then be ready if you're 6P. If they like to use 2S, then you have to be ready for your backdash. If they're adapting to your backdashes, then you need to be ready to do something else. A lot of Mei players are actually pretty predictable with their Dolphin RPS. The most common example is that they always backdash or they always press 6P. I was one of the people originally who would just press 6P, and eventually got blown up for this. Basically, just keep in mind what the opponent is doing and then adapt to it. That said, let's move on to the next habit, which I think is most Mei players jump way too much into neutral. I mean, considering how good our JH, our JS, our G2H is, our JD even, I can understand why everybody likes to jump so much. This will be effective at lower levels just because people are pretty bad at anti-airing, and anti-airing Mei can be difficult. Once you reach a celestial floor though, you realize that playing around 6P can be incredibly difficult when you're in the air all the time. Of course, there are many mix-ups you can use to play around 6P while you're in the air, but being able to play on the ground competently is really going to help you out with playing around 6P. You need to also keep in mind that Mei's aerials aren't actually the fastest at frame 12, so it's not impossible for the opponent to meet you in the air with some kind of JP or some kind of 2H, and keep in mind they're also not disjointed. What I recommend is to jump with purpose. If you think the opponent's going to attack, you can try to jump over it. If they're jumping, then feel free to jump at them and try and JD or JH or something. Or if they're being very passive, you can try and jump forward and then air dash back right before you land to see if it makes them do something. Otherwise, I think you should stick on the ground and throw out your 2S, your 5H, look for whiff punishes with 3K or Dolphin, go for throws when they're being passive. Just in general, play a very solid ground game that can mix well with your air game. Speaking of 2S though, let's talk about our next point, which is always using 2S at round start, round 1. On the surface, it seems like an obvious choice. It beats most buttons, it's very fast, and it can be hard to whiff punish. But against any player that actually knows how to fight Mei, they'll know that 2S is so common, they'll often start the game by doing a hard punish on a 2S. Of course, if you're fighting a bad player, the 2S will probably work. But if you're fighting like a top player, like you're fighting Hotashi, you already know he's gonna do a delay 5K to punish your 2S, and then you'll take like 50% a wall break and you feel pretty stupid. I personally prefer to start my sets with 5H, backdash, or jump, because it'll let you see if the opponent is thinking about 2S or not. 5H in particular is pretty good because it beats a lot of anti-2S options. Like if Nago does 5K and you do 5H, you'll win. But if you notice, hey, they're not doing anything that beats 2S, then by all means mash that shit. It's really strong and it's pretty hard to beat if you don't know how to fight Mei. But once you fight competent players, you need to keep in mind if they're thinking about 2S, since it's so common. Anyway, let's finish off this video with the final error, which is not using enough grabs during your offense. Against lower level players, yeah, they'll probably mash after they block a close slash because they don't know it's +3, or they don't care. But when you start to fight competent players, they're just going to say, okay, I'm going to sit here and block because I don't want to get hit by a counter opener. And obviously, you can just stop this by grabbing them. But I think grabs have a lot more value here than just stopping somebody from blocking, because they are the essence of how you actually get your biggest openers. Remember, if the opponent needs to backdash, they need to jump, or they need to attack, or they need to grab to stop you from grabbing them. Those are 4 options, but if you get the right read, you'll be able to make them explode because you play Mei. Just to show you just how strong your punishes are on anti-grab options, if they backdash, you can do close slash into close slash and they explode. If they jump, you can do close slash into 2H and they also explode. And if they actually attack or grab, you can do 6H and they're just dead right there. I think the main takeaway you should have from this video is to not just rely on your strongest tools while playing the game, and be comfortable changing up your style when you need to. I mean, yeah, you can probably win by just throwing out different aerials with different timings and mashing on block with your crazy random frame traps and doing heavy slash dolphins sometimes, without really grabbing them all that much. But once you actually fight somebody competent, you realize you'll need more skills in the back pocket to bring out against them. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of these habits. I'll talk to you all soon and have a great day.